I thought if we're going to talk about big matches in Europe, there is one man I need to get on Sportuccino. He is a veteran journalist, World Soccer Magazine, his own website, KeirRadnedge.com. He also has just brought out a new book called World Football Records, and I'm delighted to introduce one of the best broadcasters in the world, Keir Radnedge. Welcome to Sportuccino. Keir, massive weekend ahead. And we've got to start talking about El Clasico, Barcelona versus Real Madrid. It's always a fiery encounter. And Real Madrid are without Gareth Bale. Just how much of a miss could that be for Real?
Well, good morning, Richard. It's a pleasure to be with you and all your viewers. Bale is going to be a big loss for Madrid. On the other hand, you've got to say that they have had a number of injuries and important injuries all the way through the season so far, and they seem to have coped very well with them. I mean, Luka Modric was missing for a significant period. They're missing Bale. They're also missing Toni Kroos out of midfield, which is another problem for them. They might have Casemiro back, but they seem to have strength in depth, and of course at the moment they have terrific momentum going for them, which for once is something you can't quite say about Barcelona.
Yeah, you can't. Barcelona slipped up quite a bit. Real Madrid, this incredible record right now, Keir. 31 games unbeaten in all competitions. How much of an influence do you think that is Zinedine Zidane? Or could anyone potentially get a run like this with those type of players?
Well, yeah, in theory, you should say that with the players Madrid have, that they should be always doing well. On the other hand, you can remember back to some of the Galacticos eras, slightly earlier on in the last few years, and sometimes when you have too many star egos in your team, it just doesn't work, because you do need the water carriers in midfield to actually get the ball for them and pass it on to them for them to do their magic. I think the one thing you can say about Clasico is, Barcelona, I think they made their poorest starts of the season for more than 10 years. So on that sense, I think Madrid have probably got more confidence going into this Clasico than for many a long year.
But there is one certain man who really does love Clasicos, Lionel Messi, 21 goals in El Clasicos, a record. If Real keep him quiet, is he really the key man? Because for me, if he doesn't play well, then they don't play well, right?
Well, I think that's right to an extent, but on the other hand, you've got to think that players like Neymar, like Luis Suarez, these are big occasion players. They love the grand stage, so it's a daunting prospect, because I wouldn't say that Real Madrid have got the best defence in the world, and therefore it's that they are open to being hit if players like Neymar and Suarez decide this is going to be their day.
Well, it is a mouth-watering contest. Iniesta might be back for Barcelona. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But Italy, they've got their own huge game this weekend. The Rome derby between Lazio and Roma, Stadio Olimpico. But once again, there appears that it won't be a full house. Why exactly is that, Keir?
Well, what has happened, obviously, as I think most people know, the Rome derby has a history of a great deal of fan trouble, violence inside the stadium and outside the stadium. And the security measures that are being put in place, not for the first year, have upset the Roma fans so much that they are threatening to boycott the match. They say that the security measures taken inside the stadium separate the fans, create too many spaces. They don't like it that their banners are barred, and so they're threatening to stay away, while all the Lazio fans will be in the stadium. So again, I think you're going to have a tense situation probably outside the ground. Once again, this isn't good for either the image of Italian football or Italian sport in general.
Yeah, it's a real shame, because both of these teams are going pretty well this season, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They're both in the top four there. They've both got aspirations to chase down Juventus this season. And, you really want to see the focus of the game all about the football rather than about all the trouble or possible trouble off it.
Exactly. So that is Italy. Juventus still lead that table. Now let's move to England. When you mention Juventus, you think of Antonio Conte, their former manager, and it's a really interesting game we've got on Saturday, the early kickoff in the English Premier League. Manchester City versus Chelsea. Chelsea top of the table. City not quite going as well as many people have expected. Is this game all about the managers, though, between City and Chelsea?
Well, it's a great deal about the managers. You know, you have two new boys, as it were, in the Premier League, and they're both fascinating characters. I think one of the interesting things and the fascinations about this game is that Guardiola and Conte are both men who like to sort of manage the match as it goes along. I mean, we've just had the World Chess Championship finishing up, and I think this is going to be the sort of the chess championship on legs, if you like. I think it's going to be an extraordinarily interesting game, and you've got you know, two teams with outstanding players, and of course Chelsea are in a great run of form.
They really are, and Conte's getting the best from players such as Victor Moses, Marcos Alonso right now. It's going to be a really interesting affair. Now, your book, World Football Records, is all about kind of international teams and national teams. And so I've got to get your thoughts on England's appointment this week. Gareth Southgate, given a 4-year contract by the FA. What have you made of his appointment? And is 4 years the right amount of time for a manager?
Yes, I think a manager needs to have the guarantee that he's got the safety of time, particularly with national team managers, because you know they play a couple of matches and then it all goes away for a month or two. So a national manager does need to know that he's got you know, plenty of time and matches at his disposal. I think Southgate obviously was the natural appointment. He's a safe pair of hands, as they say. He's done his apprenticeship as manager of the under-21s, and I think the players respect him. He has a record, a solid record as a player for England, and he's well versed also in the ways of the Football Association, and it's very important for the national manager. He's a bit of a figurehead, he's a bit of a tactician, he's a bit of a motivator, he's a bit of an engineer, if you like, and I think Southgate has got all those qualities. Obviously, you know, what really matters ultimately will be results, and his #1 focus is making sure that England qualify for the World Cup finals in Russia.
Yeah, and I believe he's set an even further target of potentially winning the Euros, because of course those semi-finals and final is at Wembley. There's reports in the papers today, though, Keir, that he went through some kind of mental psychological tests before getting given the job. What do you think of that? Is that a step too far for football, or do you think in a high pressure job like that it's really needed?
Well, I think the England manager comes under so much pressure, so much scrutiny, that probably it is a sensible precaution, really. I think the Football Association were also mindful after the disastrous business over the Sam Allardyce appointment. They wanted to be as sure as they could that they had got the right individual for the job and the right man who can cope with all the pressures that comes with it. I mean, we've seen what the stress does in terms of decision making, twisting almost like, for managers in the past, you know, Roy Hodgson, Steve McLaren, and so on. So, you know, it's a very, very big job.
It really is. We are an interactive show. We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube here. And we've actually got a question from Archie Burrows. He actually wants to just go back to the Chelsea game, and he wants to ask you, does Chelsea's recent form show that managers should stick to their beliefs in terms of formation and how to play the game?
Well, that's a good question, particularly because obviously we've been talking a lot in the past few weeks about Conte switching to, you know, 3 players at the back and so on. I think the first consideration for any manager is always who are the players he's got and what are they most suited to. And I think what happened with Conte was, particularly after the defeat by Arsenal in September, he looked at his squad of players and he thought, in actual fact, I've got players who are good enough to play a different way, to use a different system, a system obviously that he is most comfortable with. So it starts with the players, but when you're Chelsea, you've got a good solid squad with a lot of talent in it, and that provides him with a lot of options to make the tactical developments that he did. So it works both ways, but it always starts with the players.
It certainly does, Keir. Well, it's been great to hear from you this morning, Keir. Tell us a little bit about your new book, World Football Records, please.
Well, World Football Records, it's a book that we've been doing with Carlton Books now for 8 years. This is the 8th edition we've updated. It's happily and proved very popular with readers. This one majors particularly, obviously, on the interim time between the World Cups, looking back into what happened in Brazil, looking back particularly in what happened in the Euros this past summer, Cristiano Ronaldo's great triumph in the end, even if he only played a few minutes of the final, and looking forward to a very, very exciting year to come.
Another exciting year in football. Yeah, it was absolutely amazing from Cristiano Ronaldo to finally win that continental title. A little bit more of what he can say he's done, which Messi hasn't done, I think, there. As their rivalry continues. Keir, just before you go, just remind us how we can follow what you're up to with your work and on social media and your website and everything, please.
Well, I've been writing for many, many years for World Soccer magazine. That's worldsoccer.com, and the magazine, of course. And I have my own webpage, KeirRadnedge.com, and everybody is welcome to come in and read what's going on in the world of football and indeed sport generally, politics, business, and so on.
Yeah, World Soccer is my go-to source. I've always got it on my iPad already. Keir Radnedge, it's been great to get your thoughts. Thanks for getting up early this morning. Thank you for being on Sportuccino.
It's been a pleasure. Bye.